of the Friends of Akbayan USA. So I just want to say, I want to welcome Isabella Borgeson, who has come from the Philippines and came out from San Francisco to co-present with Odette Pullenton. And Odette lives here in Seattle, and she also has just returned from the Philippines, and they were both in Tanauan, Leyte. But before we start, I just want to say a few words about Akbayan, because that's the political party. As Friends of Akbayan, we are working in solidarity with Akbayan, which is a political party in the Philippines, and they were formed in the post-Marcos era. And it's a coalition of groups and individuals that have a left and progressive perspective. And their objectives are to pursue its main goal of instituting greater participation in public decision-making. And that was really important to do in the post-Marcos period, since people did not participate in public decision-making because it was a dictatorship, and only one person or that group made all the decisions. And so in the period in which the democratic institutions began functioning after the dictatorship, Akbayan felt it was important to start at the grassroots level, to begin organizing so that people who had a stake in public decision-making would participate. And it would be the people that would help make the decisions, and then also elect the officials that would make those decisions. And that's what they call, in part, participatory democracy. It's when you have people organizing at the base level to help make the public policy decisions. And so Akbayan intervenes in the arenas of governance, electoral exercises, advocacy, and reform, making government more accessible, accountable, and responsible to the people that they serve. The Friends of Akbayan was formed about a couple of years ago after we invited representatives from Akbayan, Lisa Hontaveras, who was also at the time had just finished term limits as an elected official, and Walden Bello, who continues to serve in the Congress in the Philippines. And Walden actually was a member of our organization here in the United States, the Union of Democratic Filipinos, and so we had a long-time relationship with Walden and continue to. So the Friends of Akbayan continue to support the political program of Akbayan, and so we've hosted a couple of trips of Akbayan members to do education work on the current conditions in the Philippines and the struggle for the implementation of true democracy in the Philippines. And we've continued to strengthen our ties, and we're continuing to do it around the work that our comrades are doing in Tanauan, Leyte. So we thought it was important. Isabella's here. She's been in Tanauan, Leyte, working on relief efforts, but as well as empowering the people in Tanauan, Leyte. We picked that area to focus our efforts because Yolanda Avila, who many of you have either heard speak or know personally from the days during the Marcos era, she happened to be in Tanauan. Tanauan was in the eye of the storm and eye of the hurricane, and she happened to be there and survived the horrific hurricane at the time. And she has continued to work there and is planning to stay there to help with the recovery efforts. And Isa has been there since December?
In the Philippines since end of November.
And is planning to return on April 14th to continue her efforts around the school and aiding the fisher folks to return to the sea to make their living. Odette Pullenton, who many of you also know, lawyer in the area, and also was a member of the Union of Democratic Filipinos. Also just returned 2 weeks there, right?
March 3rd.
Yeah, just returned, and was using her lawyer skills and organizing skills to help with the efforts to build a new school for the children in Tanauan. So they're going to not only do a report back of the impact of the typhoon, but as well as what our efforts. So many of you contribute to, we raised in the in a month, 2 months after the typhoon, we raised about $9,000 or $10,000, and so they'll talk about not only what our little money has been able to help in terms of the rebuilding and empowering the people in Tanauan, but as well as ongoing efforts, which we'll talk about, that we would like to commit to the people of Tanauan. So Isabella, both Isabella and Odette have PowerPoints, and so we'll start with Isabella.
Thank you, Nancy.
Everyone will turn off their phones. Yeah.
Yes. So before going into my presentation, I just wanted to kind of give a context about why I came. My mom is from Tanauan, Leyte. Tanauan was devastated by Typhoon Yolanda on November 8th, and she was actually in our home, our family home there in Tanauan when the typhoon hit. It took 6 days for me to find out whether she was alive or not. It was the longest week of my life. And actually when I finally, there was no communication, no telephones, no internet or anything, so my cousin in Manila actually had to take a C-130 plane to Tacloban and then walk 14 hours over mountains of debris and dead bodies in the road to see if our mothers were still alive. Once she found out that they were in fact alive and then there was significant damage to our home, she walked all the way back and used a government phone to be able to call me to tell them that they were alive. Once I found out that my family was okay, I was also informed that we were running out of food in our home and that the relief goods had not yet reached Tanauan. So it was another days of wondering if they had only survived to run out of food in their own homes. Thankfully, my family was able to get to Manila, and so I went back, I quit my job and I went back to the Philippines, and I was there from November 20th until March 10th, and I've been engaging in relief and rehabilitation efforts with my mom. It's very important to me to be able to go back and to do this because it's very personal to me. This is my family that I'm helping also, and I think that with the devastation of Yolanda also comes a responsibility from its survivors to build back and to change certain things such as patronage politics, and to listen to the people and engage them in the relief efforts. So this is just an agenda. I'm going to talk about the Typhoon Yolanda. I know it's called Haiyan here. We call it Yolanda in the Philippines. On Tanauan, Leyte, which is where my mom's from. Our approach to rebuilding, the Malaya and Tala Fund, which is the foundation that I represented and my mom represented in the Philippines, who are doing a reconstruction of the elementary school there. And then finally, our final pitch for, this is mainly my mom's project, but I will try to do her justice, that I've been helping her with, this the Fisher Folk Project. Baligdaga Tanauan means return to the sea, so trying to empower fisher folk by giving them boats back. So this is what's called the Yolanda Street in the Philippines, the Yolanda Belt. It's the areas of the Philippines that were devastated by Typhoon Yolanda. You can see it's the strongest storm to ever make landfall in the recorded history of the world. There were over 6,000 deaths.
You can point out where Leyte was.
Oh, okay, so here, this is where Typhoon Yolanda first hit in the Philippines with Giwan in eastern Samar. It was 280 kilometers per hour when it hit Giwan. It went across the Leyte Gulf and the warmer waters increased the speed, and it hit Tanauan first, which is where my mom's from, at 320 kilometers per hour. This is the greatest storm to ever hit the world. The devastation, Tanauan has the second largest number of deaths from Typhoon Yolanda, over 1,500 deaths, over 12,000 homes destroyed. And it also was a huge economic loss. We lost the coconut oil mill, which is the largest coconut oil mill in the world, was in Tanauan. That was completely destroyed. Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, all of our plants were destroyed. And then on the smaller level, the farmlands, 2,500 hectares of farmlands destroyed, fishing boats, pedicabs. So really, I think when we talk about Typhoon Yolanda, I think it's important for all of us to make an effort to try to understand the level, the high intensity of human suffering that happened there. You know, you see it on the news and everything, but one portrayal that the media was giving was, you know, after Typhoon Yolanda, all of the looting that was happening. In fact, the mayor of Tacloban, which is the neighboring city, ordered a shoot on sight for all looters, and 4 people were killed. And it's important for us to understand that these aren't people who are looting, these are people who are just trying to feed their families and survive. This is the oil mill. This is just some pictures of Tanauan.
Do we want to turn down the lights? Yeah.
God? I don't know.
Are there any other lights?
No, we'll probably just.
Yeah.
Put the shades there. Yeah, there you go, there.
Okay. It was hard to see. Okay. Okay. So these are pictures taken by my mom, actually the day after Yolanda. So as you can see, this is right across the street. This is on my mom's block. There were cars that were spinning throughout the street. So all of these cars were not parked there before. This is the coconut oil mill that was destroyed. And it was our main source of livelihood. It was the #1 source of jobs before. And this is, so as you can see, so we were hit by 3 storm surges. So it wasn't just the winds. The winds collapsed the home, and then the storm surges came and swept away all of the debris into the water. So this is at a coastal barangay where my auntie lives. Let me know if I should go slower. This is the cemetery, or this is where the cemetery church was.
So these storm surges were flood water, right?
It's
They're
not flood.
35.
It's not floodwater. Actually, the storm surges when the winds from the typhoon are so strong that it lifts up the sea and brings it. Yes, yeah. So whereas we expected the floods to go up to like the knees, what happened was in seconds, your house would be from no water to above your head in seconds. Birds actually drowned in their home because of that. So this is a mass grave, actually. The upturned soil are holes. So there's 13 holes and 400 bodies. Over 50% of them are unidentified. And this is a traffic circle, over 200 bodies in this traffic.
So this is the mass graves.
These are the mass graves. There are many mass graves. So that's just to show that like Typhoon Yolanda really was all-sided. It didn't matter if you were rich or poor in those beginning few days. If you were in the track of the storm surge, your house was destroyed and you had no food, no water, no anything, no shelter for how many days. So just talking about the approach that my mom and I took on whatever projects we were working with any organizations has always been to empower the survivors of Yolanda and engage them in the relief work and the rehabilitation assistance. We believe that the relief assistance would not be sustainable or effective if you do not engage the people who it's affecting. So I think part of that can be seen by there's this one nonprofit that came into Tanauan and actually brought relief in the form of water, jugs of water. What they didn't understand, because they didn't hold community consultations on the ground level, is that that area actually already had running tap water, and so it was a waste of resources in many ways, so you really need to consult the people. Also, the consultations are meant to, so we always have a policy of doing consultations before any project that we do. The consultations also serve to combat the patronage politics that really riddle Leyte. So Leyte is the province, Tanauan is the municipality within that province. Leyte has a history of patronage politics, particularly from the ruling oligarchy, the Romualdeses. And I think
Imelda Marcos.
Imelda Marcos' nephew. So you have dynasties of the Romualduses, and so I think that Yolanda made it very clear that the history and the presence of patronage politics in Leyte and in Tanauan in particular clouds our vision, so we don't know what the role of government is supposed to be during something like a Typhoon Yolanda. We just know that the government, oh, this mayor pays for our fiesta every now and then, or he will show up and pay for like your uncle's dialysis or something, but you don't know what the role of government is supposed to be. So it's combating patronage politics through active citizenship by involving them in the relief efforts. So now I'll introduce the Malaya and Tala Fund. This was the foundation that I was representing in the Philippines. It was started by two sisters. 10 years old Malaya is on her back, and her older sister, 13 years old Tala. After Typhoon Yolanda, they started a foundation where, well, they didn't even start a foundation, they just started braiding these bracelets out of red, yellow, and blue rubber bands, symbolic of the Filipino flag, and they were selling them online for $10 each. It went viral, and they raised $2,000 in less than 2 weeks, which went towards urgent school supplies in the elementary schools in Tanauan. And then they got an anonymous donation, which gave them $100,000. And in the Philippines, that's enough to rebuild one elementary school. So I'll let them introduce themselves to you. This is actually a video that they created that we showed to the students of Tanauan who they were helping. Another part of this project that we're doing is this is a tutorial where they teach the students of Tanauan how to make the bracelets. The students of Tanauan will be making bracelets, and their materials are provided by Akbayan Youth, the party list that Auntie Cindy was talking about, and then they'll be sold in Manila. All of the money that they raise from that will be sent directly back to the schools. So this was a message that they had for the students. So it's a longer video where they teach the students how to make the video. So just to go into how Typhoon Yolanda affected our schools, in Leyte, which is the province which is the overall province, the island where Tanauan is in, there were 4,600 classrooms partially damaged and 2,800 totally damaged classrooms. In Tanauan particularly, 100% of our classrooms were deemed unusable. They're still being used in some places because we have nowhere else to go. There's not enough temporary classrooms. So that's 39 elementary schools, 5 high schools, and 1 university. UNICEF set up 816 temporary classrooms in Leyte, but that's only 20% of the need. So for other folks, schools have been closed, they have not been able to go back to school. And the new Department of Education standard is 340 km/h wind resistant. Before Yolanda, the standard that they had was 250 km/h wind resistant, but after the typhoon, they realized that they really need to make the school stronger. So it was the request of Malaya and Tala, the two funders, to work with the hardest hit barangays. Barangays are kind of like neighborhoods within Tanauan. So they wanted to work with the coastal barangays because they were the most devastated because of the storm surge that came in. They had the most fatalities, the most number of completely damaged houses. So we looked into 2 schools, San Roque Elementary School and Santo Niño Elementary School. Let me know if I'm going too fast, okay? I have a habit for talking fast. So San Roque Elementary School was completely damaged. There were 10 students and 1 teacher who died. And in the barangay, there were 214. It's the most number of deaths of any barangay, and they were also used as an evacuation center like every other building, like every other storm. This is the only building of San Roque Elementary School or the only wall that's left standing of the entire school after the storm surge. Also, if you can see in the background, all of these tents, this is where their families live from the community. All of their homes were also washed out. So you're only living in relief tents that you got from nonprofit organizations like Catholic Relief Services and Samaritan's Purse, mainly the ones. And the rest of the school just looks like this. It was completely collapsed, and then the water took away the debris. This is the principal, Mrs. Leyte. The temporary classrooms are built by the division of the Department of Education and also by UNICEF. As you can see, they're good. They're made out of plywood. These ones, the other ones are tents, but they're also very flimsy. The tarpaulin is just the roof. In fact, on the first day of classes, the rain was so hard because it was rainy season during that time. It was so hard that the rain split open the tarpaulin, and the children who were very traumatized from going through Typhoon Yolanda began to scream and to cry and to say, Yolanda's coming back, Yolanda's coming back, which is actually something I've seen a lot in my own family, where my little cousins get very, very scared, begin to visibly shake and cry whenever it rains too hard or the winds howl too loud. So luckily, the teachers had gone to a seminar in Manila where they received training for stress debriefing after Yolanda, so they were able to engage the students in stress debriefing activities. But you can really see how Yolanda still affects the children who are so young to go through such a traumatic experience of losing all of their family, and the mental health counseling that is really needed. Santo Niño Elementary School is another coastal barangay that we also considered for the reconstruction project. This is all talking about the Malaya and Tala funds still, right? So there was 4 students who died at the school, and it was also used as an evacuation center. This is the principal, Marlon Tancos. He actually evacuated him, and his entire family were here in this building during the storm surge, and he's been suffering a lot of symptoms of PTSD also because you can't see the sea here, but the sea is literally right behind him. So he was describing to me that he could see literally all three storm surges as huge waves. Looked like they described them as huge tsunamis taller than coconut trees that were coming in and that were slamming into his family. So he actually held on. I don't know if you can see this, the steel trusses at the top, or it's not steel trusses, I forget what they're called.
Rebar.
Yes, yeah, the bars, the steel bars at the top. He held on to that during the storm surges, so his hands were bleeding, and thankfully he and his family survived. But 4 students who were there died. And this is all that remains of their school. These are the students in the temporary classroom. They're here trying to, there's not enough, desks. There's not enough desks, so some of them sit on the tires. So they're showing me. And this is the teachers going through the UNICEF school supplies that were donated. So with the $2,000 that the girls, Malaya and Tala, raised on their own, through just going to community and selling online, we were able to buy urgent school supplies, which went toward uniform t-shirts. After doing a consultation with the schools and which included their teachers and the principal, they said that they really needed a uniform t-shirt. A lot of these students didn't have any clothing after, and so they would just wear anything that they could find, whether it was elegant dresses that they had found, and it looked really weird to everyone, wearing backless dresses to class. Or I would see costumes sometimes, or their parents' shirts that were really big. So they wanted to be able to instill some dignity into them and allow them to have uniform T-shirts. We also procured funds from Feed the Hungry for a computer, printer, and generator, which is necessary for the end of school year documents. For transcripts for the 6th graders when they are graduating and going to high school, etc. And then UNICEF donated another 3 temporary classroom tents for Santo Niño, who the regular sized classroom is only supposed to have 40 students in it. Santo Niño, because of their lack of classrooms, had 160 students in one classroom, so they were able to get more and also for a debriefing training we were able to pay for air. We've been working with the Department of Education Superintendent, the head of the Leyte Division, Dr. Ronel Fermo, and also with the Mayor of Tanauan, Mayor Peltexon, and they expressed the need for schools to be rebuilt fast because the school year starts again in June 2014, and so we need to have school buildings come up fast. So they were saying that with the no-build zone, it's going to take a much longer time. It's much more long-term for where are we going to put these new schools. So they asked us to rebuild Maribi Elementary School. This is because the folks who are within the no-build zone, most of them from San Roque, are going to be relocated to Barangay Maribi and Barangay Pago, and then another one too. But the ones from Pago and Maribi both go to Maribi Elementary School. Does that make sense? So 2 of the 3 relocation sites, those students will go to Maribi Elementary School. So that's 200 to 300 students who were originally at San Roque Elementary School who will be going to Maribi Elementary School. Maribi Elementary School, which is the school that we're going to be reconstructing through the Malaya and Tala Fund. It's a coastal, or it's an inland barangay, so it was not affected by the storm surge. There were 0 deaths, and so it's not as badly affected at all. But you can see the current student population is 276 students. So if 200 to 300 students are going to be relocated there, it's almost going to double the population of the school. And that's assuming that the students and the parents will want to go there. Some students and parents have actually said, we want to stay at San Roque no matter where we get relocated to. And that's a whole other 40-minute conversation.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So with the rebuilding, are they keeping in mind if something like this were to happen again and it needs to become an evacuation and shelter center, that it needs to have a little more than just classrooms?
What do you mean a little?
So will it be used, it most likely will be used as emergency shelter in the future?
Yes.
So will it have a little more amenities than a regular school would have?
More multi-purpose.
I see, yeah. I mean, there's definitely other types of, I think that what they're trying to build right now are schools that will survive the Yolanda. I don't know if they have a multi-purpose room type of idea. I think that's more long-term type of things that they should be working on, or also building barangay halls, which are the local government unit halls that can also survive the typhoon. They increased the wind resistance standard to 340 kilometers per hour in that attempt.
How many of these kids have their parents still on our?
I don't know the exact numbers, but there are many, especially in the Barangay Santa Cruz and Barangay Magay, there are many students who are orphaned, right? I mean, I'm sure that Tita Odette will talk about that, but usually either they're taken care of by the folks within the barangay, by relatives, or they also have the sisters who come and make, in Santa Cruz, especially Santa Cruz and Magay, they have sisters who come and make meals for them, for all of the orphan children, but there are many children who have been orphaned because of this.
How are they being transferred from barangay to barangay for schools purposes? Do they have buses? Are they?
Oh, pedicab and walking. Pedicab, is that a common thing? It's like
Yeah,
a
bicycle.
Yeah,
Bicycle.
bicycle.
And how far the distance they have to get for school?
If they're relocated to Barangay Pago or Maribi, the school is just right there. So it's not a far distance at all. If they are relocated to Barangay Maribi and they still want to go to San Roque, that is like a 20-minute pedicab. But if you have the sources to be able, it's probably like a 40-minute walk.
Oh, so it's not hours.
No. Okay. Yeah, it's a small town. It's only a 53,000 population in Tanauan. So I'll try to hurry up because I'm taking too long. But this is Maribi Elementary School. That's the UNICEF tent. As you can see, it's not as badly hit as San Roque or Santo Niño. Thank you. Whereas like the building, the structure of the building is very much compromised. There's no roof, there's no windows, but still there is a structure of the building still. Whereas in San Roque and Santo Niño, there was none. This is the only school building that collapsed. This is the one that we are going to be rebuilding. It's called the Millennium Building. It was built during the Ramos era. It was the newest building, but it was the only one that collapsed. You can see in the picture 2 architects from East They made the new design for the school. E stands for Emerging Architect Studio. It's the youngest Philippine architectural firm. And this is the school. This is the class that we're going to be rebuilding. Right now, it's 2 classrooms, the kindergarten and 6th grade. It was also used as a evacuation center, and the principal was telling me that there were 20 students in there, and the only reason why they survived is because when all the buildings were collapsing, there was one bathroom, and they all ran into the single bathroom together, and that was the only part of the building that stood. I've heard many stories about the bathroom is the place to go if